Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dave Durr, President and CEO of the Culpeper Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to welcome you to the Candidates Forum tonight. Tonight we're going to have two groups of candidates. First, we have individuals who are seeking a seat on the Board of Supervisors. After that forum is complete, we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we will have candidates for the school board. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to recognize a couple of groups. First of all is Culpeper Media Network. Culpeper Media Network has been a partner of the Chamber in putting these events together. This forum is being broadcast live on Comcast Channel 10, Culpeper's Facebook page, and YouTube. So there's lots of places that this can be seen tonight. Culpeper Times is a partner of ours in promoting this and promoting awareness of the election. The town of Culpeper and the county of Culpeper economic development boards, and last but not least, the Culpeper Registrar. And I would encourage everyone to stop over and take a look at our new voting machines that we'll be using this November. It's a new machine, it's different. Get familiar with it, and it'll make things go much smoother when we go to the polls in November. Next, I'd like to thank the candidates that are here tonight. And I'd like to thank you for running for office. That's what makes our country great. That's what makes our system work. We truly appreciate that. And I appreciate you being here tonight to talk to the public and let us know where your position is on certain issues. Thank you very much. Now, the logistics for this evening. Each candidate will stand up. They'll have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Following that, there will be questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the questions. When they're complete, they'll have 2 minutes to wrap up. We ask that you hold your applause until the end when the candidates wrap up. And that just lets the evening move a little bit quicker. We have a lot of information to get through tonight. At this time, as a partner of Untitled Barber, a CPA firm here in Culpeper. Chris, take it away.
Thank you, everyone. This isn't about me, so let's get right into the candidates. Bill?
My name is Bill Chase. I represent the Stevensburg District. I've represented them for 36 years now. The way I got into it, and by the way, I'm on this cane and on this seat, not because of old age, but because I got in an argument with a tractor-trailer truck out there, and unfortunately he won. So anyway, I've walked with a cane, and I've had a traumatic brain injury too, and it has affected my speech somewhat. But anyway, I was on the Planning Commission because I'd gone to night school under the GI Bill while I was still in the Army to get a master's in planning. So I was named to the Planning Commission in Culpeper, which I served on for 7 years. But there were 12 farmers out in Stevensburg that wanted me to run for the Board of Supervisors. Unfortunately, none of them are here today now, but those 12 convinced me, and I said I'd do it for 1 term, which would have been 4 years. Now I deal with their sons and grandsons. So that's how I got on the board. I've tried to respond to people. To me, the biggest requirement for a supervisor is to be responsible to the citizens. And it's a proud achievement of mine, and I've never failed knowingly. I may have, somebody may say they did call me sometime, and I've always returned every single call. I've tried to explain why I voted on a certain issue in a certain way. Some people agree, some people don't agree, but I've always tried to have the good of the community at home. And I feel big on property rights, that if you don't harm neighbors' health, welfare, or good being, why you should be permitted to do it since you pay the taxes on your land and you own it. And speaking of taxes, I've always tried to keep taxes lower. I believe in a good school system. My 4 children all graduated from Culpeper High School, and their children have gone also. So that's my background, and I just thank the Lord that I'm still here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jack?
Good evening. I'm Jack Frazer. I represent the Cedar Mountain District on the Culpeper County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to thank the Chamber for getting us all together and letting us speak on some of the issues. I'd like to also thank Culpeper Media. I want to thank my constituents of Cedar Mountain for allowing me to serve on the board for the last 4 years. Since I'm running uncontested, I guess I'm going to be your next supervisor. So I appreciate the opportunity to be there. It's certainly been an honor for me to represent you all on the board. I do want to clear up something, and this has really nothing to do with county business, but I do want to say this while I'm here, is that a little background on this. The Culpeper Star Exponent sent us a questionnaire out to answer some questions that were relevant to the county. And after that, they sent us a bio of our, name, education, and all like that. But anyway, on that, when I printed that off, that was, there was something that was missing that I didn't get on a print off, and that was my marriage status. And it's kind of funny, this is, but it wasn't when I got home that night and had to answer to my wife. But needless to say, it did not get in the paper, and my marriage status, there was no marriage status in the paper. So anyway, I had to answer to that when I got home. And I tell you what's so ironic about this is that I didn't get any questions about how I responded to the county issues. I just got questions on how I responded, as far as my marriage status. Is that in trouble? Well, I'm here tonight to tell you that it's not in trouble, and we celebrated our 48th wedding anniversary yesterday. So, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Chuck?
Good evening. Thank you for coming out, and thank you to the Chamber for setting up this candidates forum. I'm Chuck Duncan, and I'm running for Board of Supervisors. I'm really defined by the 24 years I spent in the Air Force. At 18, I won an appointment to the Air Force Academy, stayed, and it became who I was. In the first job I had was in R&D. I moved into analysis, which meant I was looking at how to go ahead and make decisions on budgets and programs. After I got out of the Air Force, I continued in the analysis role. Well, who cares? What I found with 30 years plus of analysis experience is it's not the hardware, it's not the tools, it's the people. Always the issue was, how do you get organizations to work together, to do better, to focus on a single mission? That's really the job of an analyst. Anyway, I want to go ahead and offer those skills to the Board of Supervisors. We need more skills in analytic areas for Culpeper as the new threats of the 21st century, the new problems of our 21st century keep coming at us one after another. 32 years ago, being a supervisor was considered a part-time job. I don't know what a part-time job is. I've always done the work until the work was done. I'm paying for my own campaign. I owe no one any favors. I have no special interest except the special interest of Jefferson District and Culpeper County. Thank you.
All right. Please hold your applause to the end. Brad?
Excuse me. Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank the Chamber for the invitation and the opportunity to be here this evening. For those of you who have been to these before, they're usually breakfast meetings. They start early in the morning, and I'd much rather have them in the evening. That would be my preference, and I appreciate you doing it here this evening instead of a breakfast meeting. My name is Brad Rosenberger, for those of you who don't know me. I've had the distinct honor and privilege to serve on the Board of Supervisors for 32 years. It's a very humbling experience. It's a tremendous education. And I've had people ask me, why would you want to run again? It's the future. My family has been in Jefferson since the 1870s. My children are the sixth generation to be raised here. We're now raising the seventh, and I'm always concerned about the future and how things are going to go for them. I think that ultimately we have a beautiful place here that people want to come to. And the reason they do is because of the decisions that this board has made over the years to keep us rule and at the same time grow. We're a good place to live, and you don't have to stop at a stoplight every 5 minutes. You can drive on down the road. And I think we should do everything in our power to continue that while bringing in business and allowing for residential development. And it's a tricky wicket sometimes, but with the right people in the right places making the right decisions, we're capable of doing that and have shown that. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you. Let's move into our first question, and this question is for Bill. There's a significant demand in the workplace today for skilled tradesmen such as welders, machinists, and electricians. Do you support the construction of a new vocational educational facility as a shared community college or public school effort?
Absolutely. I feel very strongly about that because I myself started out working in the coal mines as a teenager. And some of the smartest people I ever met were in the coal mines, by the way. And so for that reason, I feel that there's a whole lot of our group here in Culpeper that when they get out of school aren't going to go to college. I've argued this for years. It's a matter of record that we needed a good workshop for people to learn different trades in. And I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I've tried to line up some buildings. I get confused over which group is doing which, but the one out at that's in the school system themselves, I've tried to line up a building for them to go to so that they don't have to build one. And so I think that both have good leaders and we're on the right direction, and I strongly support the effort to have it.
Thank you, sir. Jack?
You're not going to answer the question again?
Would you like
I
me
know
to
what
ask-
the question is.
Would you like me to ask the
No, you
question
don't
again?
need to answer it again. I certainly support this. This subject has been something that's near and dear to me for pretty much all my life. If you look at my bio, I won't go back there. But anyway, I have the training in a lot of different vocational fields. And I do think this is certainly important to us here in Culpeper. We have such an issue with workforce readiness, and this deals with workforce readiness. And what it's doing, this would prepare these young people when they are in school to get on a path to a profession, a job after they get out of school. We have such a problem now with kids that are graduating from high school that have no idea of really what they want to do. They probably have intentions to go to some type of school, whether it be Germanna or wherever, but a lot of times they don't, and they have to settle for jobs that are low paying. It take a very long time for them to get to where they need to get. But this is something that we desperately need. We also need it. I support it. I think that I support it to the point of the next school that we build in Culpeper should be a vocational school. I'll say that. That's how much I support it. It's just another area that we need to have focus on is adult education from the vocational and trade side. And that's another area that we need to go to as far as workplace readiness. They're young people out of high school, getting out of high school, and they're just not ready for a job. And so this stuff will put them in a situation where at least they'll have a path for a career or a job. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Chuck, same question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much for doing that.
There's a significant demand in the workplace today for skilled tradesmen, such as welders, machinists, and electricians. Do you support the construction of a new vocational educational facility as a shared community college or public school effort?
There's two parts here. One is, do I support vocational school? The other is, do I support a particular facility? Right now, off the top of my head, I know enough to know I don't know the answer to that question because of the details of what the school demands would be or what have you. As far as the purpose, yes, I support that. How you arrive at, we should be thinking about it. The other thing is the vocational training aspect. I remember sitting in a school board meeting about 3 years ago, and they were shutting down their last vocational training. It was a problem with teachers, but it was also a problem with the students, that they just couldn't get enough that were interested in it. We need programs which will actually attract students to it. The best example I have is the robotics competition that's going on across the country. My grandson, who's no great academician, signed up for that, and the first thing they had him do was learn how to program in C, which I found hard to believe, but he had to do that before he got the next thing he wanted to do, which was fun, was welding. This last summer, at 17, he was working in a diesel engine repair shop. Don't know what he was doing, but when I was between my sophomore, probably my junior and my senior year, I was picking peaches. Not exactly high-skilled job. So what we need to do is start expanding the opportunities. And the other part, aside from the traditional vocational, is all the certifications that you can go ahead and get working off of the internet. It shouldn't just be the trades. It should be hands-on education for real jobs across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Brad?
The question you asked was relative to building of new schools. As we speak, we have metalworking, we have welding that is getting ready to start up at the George Washington Carver Technical Institute. Now, I've said this many times, and I think it needs to be said again. In my entire tenure on the board, the most interesting thing that ever came to the board in a presentation was from a guy by the name of John Toth, who ran George Washington Carver Technical Institute before it stopped operating. It was the most energetic and interesting that I had ever seen because they were excited about what they were doing. We're moving in that direction right now with adult education, and I certainly favor doing something for our children as well. If we can get these kids to working, the ones that don't go to college, not all kids are college bound. They don't want to go to college or for some other reason cannot. But if we can get them skills in the trades to go into the workforce, I think we can work towards solving a tremendous number of problems, one of them being the drug issue, because maybe they'll be busy and they won't have time to fool with that, but they can walk right into the workforce with jobs. But yes, I do support it, and I think that the way that this thing is probably going to go, depending on what the board decides to do, is it's going to be in conjunction with this facility right here, where these children will be able to get dual enrollment and get college credits while they're still in high school.
Thank you, sir. This question's for Jack. The abuse of opioids and heroin is happening at all levels of our population. According to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, between 2013 and 2015, Culpeper had the highest rate of death by drug overdose of any county in the Fredericksburg area. What policies can the Board of Supervisors enact or support to combat this epidemic?
Well, it certainly is one of the biggest issues that we face here in our community. There are several efforts being made through the local churches, private groups, but I think that one of the biggest strides that we've made is that
There's some substitute drugs out there, and that's what I call them, because they're step-down type drugs, and that's Suboxone, methadone clinics. A lot of folks that get in trouble with these drugs, whether it's prescription drugs or on-the-street drugs, they can lead a productive life by going through a drug rehabilitation program and using these 2 substitute drugs as a step down. That's something that we are working on in a county. Our county has a person right now that is actually has started that program. And but as far as the fix for this, I don't know what that fix is, because the problem is so rampant. We can just take it a case by case, and through our local churches, through community groups, through support groups, there's just so much out there right now. But the problem is really getting away from us. I think one of the biggest problems, and we as a county really can't do a lot about it, is as far as where a lot of these drugs are coming from. And that's Baltimore area. That's where most of our drugs are coming from, right here. And another thing that we need to do is parents, grandparents, what we need to do is when our kids get hurt at school, know what your kids are taking. Make sure that you confer with the doctor and you look at these pain pills. Hey, maybe that's not what we want to be giving our kids. Talk to your kids. Years ago, I just want to take just a couple of seconds, this is important to me, is that you talk to your kids about the drugs and you tell them, hey, this is not what you need to be doing. And, a lot of us are complacent. Our kids would never do this. Not my kid. But believe me, folks, they will if they got the opportunity. So get involved. That's where we need to be. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Chuck?
This has been the same question 4 years ago, 20 years ago. We're really not making any progress. Step back a little bit. What are the problems we've got in this county? Yes, we've got heroin addiction problems, and it usually starts with the younger generation. We also have an aging population. Both sets of populations, the young and the old, suffer isolation and boredom. So the younger are going to drugs, and the older are also need to be picked up. Can we go ahead and address those at the same time? You talk about bringing in the churches. What we really need to do is bring in the churches and reestablish the extended family. One idea that my wife had way back when was, when you build a school, why don't you build it with the senior center and have the seniors tutor the young children, and then the older ones help take care of the seniors. We start having an extended family, tie that in with the churches. And the idea is that people are not alone, they're not lost in boredom, and then we start going out after the specifics of what's going on, stopping the flow and so forth. But we've tried that year after year after year. We need to get our extended family back together, and that's built around the churches, tying the children in with the older people, like me, and making it all work together so we get rid of the boredom issues that lead to drugs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brad?
Thank you, sir. I agree with everything that's been said here relative to bringing the churches and their involvement. I don't know whether you heard this afternoon, but the president declared an epidemic, that we are under an epidemic. We all knew that. But I think that you don't just talk about the children. These drugs are being used by people who are 14 to 75. They run the gamut. But the president also called, and I agree wholeheartedly, on manufacturers to stop producing the drug that is causing these people to get hooked. And then they get hooked and then move to the heroin. They're calling for, and I agree, and I think that we should do everything that we can do to support it, a drug that can come out to be used for pain, which is not addictive like the opioids. The problem you have is that you've got big manufacturers that manufacture these drugs, and they're lobbying down in Washington and everywhere else because they want to keep those drugs on the market. The boys down there need to wake up and work to take them off the market instead of working with the lobbyists who want to just make that money. It's all driven by money. And if you can get that solved, we can solve this problem with the other things that these people have talked about here this afternoon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, it's definitely a problem, and I've gotten a phone call and a letter from parents who unfortunately paid the price, and they wanted to do something and wanted me to help them set up a program or something, which I told them I would do everything I could. I myself I saw several deaths in Vietnam totally with drugs. I've seen deaths all over with drugs, and here it certainly is. And I think that we have to publish, both of these parents want to make it known that their children OD'd. They felt it was accidental. But, and in one case, the person's best friend had OD'd 5 days before in Culpeper County. So it definitely is a big problem, and we need to get everybody involved in the newspapers to explain the problem, to tell the danger of it, and to inform the young people. We need the school system involved, we need the churches involved, we need the organizations such as Ruritan involved, and most of all, somehow we've got to get the young people involved. So it is a problem, and it has to be solved.
Thank you, sir. So the next question, this is going to go to Chuck. The growing population of Culpeper is driving an increase in the demand for emergency services. Volunteer companies have been the backbone of our emergency services for many years, but they are finding it difficult to keep up with the growing demand of their services. How should the county manage the situation, and what do you anticipate the cost of this to be, and how will it be communicated to taxpayers?
Got a couple of things going on here. One is, as far as the population growth goes, what we have is a increasing elderly population. In one sense, it's solving itself. We see the construction on Ira Hoffman where they're setting up a over 55 center. That will make them easier to go ahead and serve. The other part of the problem, though, is that yes, indeed, we do have a growing population, albeit slowly, is how do we go ahead and support our volunteer fire and rescue? The biggest problem is getting volunteers for the organization. There's a secondary issue of ever-changing and growing standards. My neighbor became an emergency medical technician. It took her, I think, 6-9 months before they would allow her to go ahead and get on that ambulance. Same thing for the firefighters. We need to have a more flexible set of standards. If I'm out in the field and I'm having a heart attack, I want someone to get out there, pick me up, and drag me to a hospital. I don't want someone who can do a heart transplant in place. So the same thing applies there. We're driving away people that would volunteer by requiring too long a time to get productive. That requires us to go ahead and work at the state level as far as what these standards are and how they come about. This is where it's important to work with our 5 state legislators. We've been gerrymandered into 3 state senators. We should have 1. Well, let's use that to our advantage to start changing the rules and regulations of what's going on so that we can have more effective fire and rescue squads. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brad?
Thank you. Our board has been concerned about this issue for a long period of time, and we are doing everything we can do to try to take the stress off of our volunteers as far as raising money and helping them with capital improvements now. That allows them to have more time to do training, which I agree is excessive. But one thing to think about here is that these new technical education slots that we think are going to probably open up, there's nothing in the world wrong with having a medic 1 or a firefighter 1 and let these kids, everybody wants to be a fireman. I did when I was a little boy. And they may very well decide to go into that career. But I have to tell you that last Saturday night or the Saturday night before, I had the distinct opportunity to go to the Little Fork Fire and Rescue Banquet. They have brought in new people. They've got young children there. They're not children. They're young ladies and young men. They're full of energy. They're working. They're receiving awards. It was a lot of fun being there. But I have to tell you, for 5 years now, they've had 100% response time. Now, that's amazing. But we've got to try to get people back into the thought process of volunteerism. It used to be commonplace. Everybody's busy today. But you know, sometimes you can go out and say, well, how about you come on with me and let's go to this meeting? Maybe you'll have a good time. Maybe you'll find something you enjoy. And maybe we need to go into our communities and seek out some new people, whether it be volunteer firemen or somebody to drive the ambulance or whatever it might be. But I can tell you, my hat is off to our volunteers. They save this county millions and millions of dollars. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm on the board, I'm going to do everything I can do to try to help support them so that they can have more time for their leisure instead of raise funds for capital improvements. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Bill?
Well, there again, I draw back on experience. I'm a life member to a volunteer fire department in another state. And I try to think what motivated me. Well, what motivated me was that when the fire whistle blew, you got to jump and run out of school and go jump on a truck. You didn't have to come back. That was my motivation. But all I had to know was which way to point a hose. But it's different now. It's so technical now. They have days and days and weeks and months of training before they can even go to a fire or EMS. And we have established that tax to support them that they get 100% of. We've also given them additional monies, but equipment is so much now, it's just unbelievable. I don't know, $500,000 for a ladder truck and different things like that. So I think the board recognizes totally what an important outfit they are, and I'm very proud of the ones in my district, Richardsville and Brandy, and they have events that I always try to attend, dinners and different things as fundraisers. And I think that's a good way for the community to support them and help them with their income. On the other hand, they certainly need some help from government also. And I think that they have programs for young people. I think we're heading in the right direction. So I do think it'll stay good in this county. Thank you.
I certainly support the volunteer organizations that it's just a lifesaver, if you will, for our community. And you know, I support their efforts, their fundraising, and you know, the point that Brad made, as long as I'm on the board, I will support their efforts and do whatever I can to keep the volunteer process going. It's so important, that volunteer process. You really can't put a number value on that, because I can't even put a number, nobody can really put a number value on that. It's just tremendous effort as far as these folks are concerned. Now, getting back to one of my pet projects, the vocational thing, this is something that we are looking at as far as a class to train potential firefighters, EMS people, that once they get, a lot of times with the young people, once they get a little taste of this, they love it and they want to volunteer. And that's what's happening now. A lot of the young people are really not getting that little taste that they need of, you know, being involved with a, you know, with a community, being involved in the camaraderie that goes along with being there at the fire department. I know what this is. I'm a life member of Riva Fire Department. Riva's not in my district. It's a closer fire department than Rapidan, but Rapidan is in my district. But I certainly support these organizations, and I think that we still have a future with our volunteer program. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next question will go to Brad. It is projected that over the next 20 years, Culpeper will continue to grow at a significant rate. With this growth comes more traffic and higher need for transportation services. What priorities do you have for road and transportation improvements in the community?
Thank you. Can I defer to Mr. Chase? Just teasing. We have put aside money for future improvements. We put that into our budget, and there will be a need. I hope that at some point in time, the state of Virginia will come up with some more money. They, as you all know, haven't had a tremendous amount of money. We were given the opportunity as one of the high-growth counties in the state of Virginia to be able to have what was called a traffic impact fee. The board chose not to use it. At some point in time, that may have to be looked at again so that the impacts that are created by new development can help be offset by that development instead of you as taxpayers who are paying already have to take care of that problem for them. But revenue sharing projects is normally how we have done it in the past, and I assume that we'll continue in the future to do just that.
Thank you, sir. Bill?
Well, I've been on record that VDOT considers me the southern end of a horse going up another northern hill, so that I don't like the way it's being run now. They certainly aren't answering the problems. We've got the most dangerous intersection out in Stevensburg now that I've had over the past years, why I think 3 personal friends of mine were killed there, and now it's even worse. I don't know how VDOT ever came up with that thing, so that all we can do is keep on to the state our complaints and our concerns and keep them on and improving the roads. And somewhere the state is going to have to get more money because they aren't putting into Culpeper County right now. And so I feel very strongly that our roads are in need of repair, replacement, and they've got absolute dangerous intersections that are brand new, and you don't have to go, if you go 5 o'clock right out here at the corner of McDevitt Drive and Route 3, well, I counted 35 cars in front of me waiting to get on to Route 3 this afternoon. It was part of the reason I was late here. So that we do have many problems. The county does not have the responsibility, but we have the responsibility to represent our constituents. And so we just have to get in the face of VDOT and somehow make them perform for Culpeper County.
Thank you, sir. Jack?
I certainly agree with Bill as far as getting VDOT to be attentive to our issues. We as supervisors really do not have the responsibility of the maintenance of our area roads. It's dealing with VDOT, in which I deal with them pretty constantly on road issues, and the bad thing about it is that the funding is just not there. And I think that the process is broken. And I'll give you a good example of it, and I knew I'd have an opportunity once, sooner or later, to speak on this subject. There's a road in my district, I'm not going to say what it is, it never had road signs on it, and never had road signs on it. So what I suggested, let's put 2 45-mile-an-hour signs on this road. Well, no, and in fact, I even volunteered to go out there and put them up. But no, we've got to do a road study on this road before we can put this 45-mile-an-hour signs up. Now, I'm telling you, that's where it's going. Now, revenue sharing is another thing, dealing with VDOT. That's the only way that we can get any road repairs done to any of our secondary roads. So guess what? We had a list of roads that we were going to do this year, that we're in right now. Revenue sharing went away. So it's the system, the system with VDOT is just absolutely broken. And with us, I just don't see how we can keep up unless we can get that fixed. The problem is with VDOT and the funding, it's just not there. The higher priority jobs like Northern Virginia and Newport News and Norfolk area, they're the ones that's getting the funding. We got to pay the taxes, but we get zero. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
I get to answer last. You have no idea what an advantage this is. I get to listen to everybody's good ideas. Anyway, first of all, while we may have gotten a certain advantage when we were one of the high-growth counties, we are no longer a high-growth county. We're currently bumping along at about 1%, and it's probably not going to get larger. So that means we're not going to be able to just say, hey, automatically we're going to get our roads upgraded. The problem is changing the system. That means we've got to get in and lobby at the Richmond level. We can go ahead and beg and plead, we can fund match, but we actually have to go ahead and play the politics. Getting roads paved, developed, has always been a political process. That was one of the first things I learned when I was in the Air Force, and we actually got a proposal to put in a new lab by a road manufacturing company, and we said, why is this here? Well, they have to put a certain number of proposals in to satisfy their ability to bid on roads. So we got to go to Richmond. We've got to take advantage of our representatives, our state senators, our delegates, and change the system to go ahead and reflect safety, not just changes of population. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. So, Bill, this question is to you. In today's connected world, access to high-speed internet is a must for businesses and very important utility in our home. Unfortunately, there are many areas of Culpeper County that do not have broadband internet access. Do you consider broadband access a priority? And what would the Board of Supervisors do to improve access?
You know, I was afraid you'd ask that question. My biggest problem these days is where do I park my dinosaur when I come to work in town? 'Cause I don't do computers, so I don't even know anything about it. But enough people, and I've had small businesses call and say that they, over in the Brandy area, that they can't get the high-speed internet. So somehow we've got to get it. Now, I don't know what's involved in it, so I'm not giving you a very good answer, but I'm babbling a lot. So, so I don't know how we get it, but we need to get it, and I don't know who uses it, but they need to use it. So that's all I can say about it.
I guess that's a good answer.
That's all I can say on it. The crowd isn't allowed to boo when I speak, are they? So
They shouldn't.
okay.
Yes,
Jack?
I realize the need in our county for the unserved areas. There's no question about it. My stance on this has been pretty much the same from the beginning. I realize the need, but I am not for the county getting into the internet business. I think that the county needs possibly to work with the private sector like we're doing with a company now, and maybe we can get some of these areas served. The simple reason that they're not served is because there's no profit in it. It's pretty simple why they're not served. You take a mile of cable in town, may serve 1,000 people. A mile of cable out in the county may only serve one. That's why it's not being served. So the simple thing of it is, with the county being in the internet business, I do not support that. I think that the answer to it is the county working with the private sector, making it easier as far as setting poles, pole height. There's some issues that we're working with right now to be able to use taller pole height, to be able to use wireless connections to get from one site to another. But as far as us placing cable or gray pipe or pipe in the ground or fiber in the ground, I don't favor that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chuck?
Okay, the internet really is critical to economic development as far as this town goes, county. But it's not just that. It actually starts at cell phone coverage. It's a safety issue. We should be at least fully capable of communicating with cell phones. When my daughter slips off the road, I want her to be able to call for help. Back before cell phones, that wasn't an issue. She just bled. But anyway, what I'm really saying is it isn't just an internet issue, it is a bandwidth issue, and we have to be working to improve it continually. The technology keeps changing. If the county got involved with an internet company, the technology they would use would just simply slip behind. We should be involved with permitting new capabilities, making it easier to put in towers. The higher the tower, the cheaper the coverage. As the technology changes, maybe it's more towers, lower. Don't know. Let the free market figure that out. But we should be doing everything with our regulations within the county, and again, at Richmond, to go ahead and get the rules set up so entrepreneurs can go ahead and provide us the coverage we need. If we have that, then we can go ahead and use it to do things like developing online certification programs, which leapfrogs off of the welding capability that my grandson loves. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Brad?
Yes, sir, that internet problem is a real issue. And it's not just because of fire and rescue or cell phone coverage. It's a big part of our children's education today. They need the internet to get a good education. There's been a lot of hoorah-rah here lately over a new position that was created by the board. It was an administrative assistant / grant writer. Mr. Chase has 450 people in his district who are now going to have broadband service due to one of the grants that we received to put in mini transmitters to get broadband to those individuals. I think that there's no reason that the cable companies should not work with the broadband providers, but it's an issue of them wanting the whole pie instead of a piece of the pie. I've talked with CEOs of electric cooperatives around here who are willing to run dark fiber in replacing cable and putting in new cable, but nobody wants them to do it. Now, why would they not? If you can have your house electrified and have a cable run in where the cable company can hook to it, why do they think they have to have all that money? So if we can come up with a way, possibly even a public-private partnership, I don't think we need to be in the business of cell phone towers or internet supplying, but I think that we may have to work to try to reach this goal, because you can go to the end of the line on a cable and you can drop it down and then you can shoot it broadband. So if you have that capability, why don't we bring all of them to the table, sit down, have a meeting of the minds, and try to accomplish this? It's so very important. I have constituents who are at about a mile, less than a mile away from where the cable stops. They are putting money together as we speak and going to pay $20-some thousand to get that cable down to their home businesses and for their children who are going to school. That's ridiculous. These companies need to work together, and I think that we ought to get them all together and set them down at a table and see if we can't hash something out. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, sir. The next question will go to Jack. Commercial development has many benefits, and as a result, counties compete to attract desired industries. Do you support offering incentives to attract businesses to relocate in Culpeper? And if so, give some examples of incentives you feel are appropriate.
Well, you know as well as I know, most anybody that's up on this subject, that businesses today, attracting new businesses to an area, that's a competitive thing. And a lot of counties are wanting new businesses, and they will give incentives to these businesses to come. I think what we really should start, and we are working on this particular issue, is that most businesses, when they come into an area, they'll look at a piece of property and see if that, first of all, see if it has the correct zoning. And that's something that we're working on. And what's happening is we have a lot of properties that's in our comp plan that's slated to be commercial industrial properties, and the zoning is not in place. And the reason being is that the current owners are keeping it in land use or something of that nature to keep taxes low. So we're looking at possibly allowing these owners that's in the, where it's designated land, where it's going to be commercial someday or industrial someday, to still be able to get the lower tax rates, but going ahead and accomplishing that zoning issue. It's huge as far as these companies, when they come in, they want it shovel ready. They do not want to go through the zoning process, and I understand that. But as far as offering them some tax incentives, I think that I would certainly be up for that, as far as possibly some deferred real estate taxes or deferred personal property taxes or the tool tax. It's huge for these companies, and I would certainly be in favor of some incentives like that, and we have done that in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Incentives to go ahead and bring in businesses. I am totally against any incentive which involves a transfer of funds to a business in the hope that they will show up. If we're going to have a business come in, to go ahead and offer them a tax holiday for a period of time, and if they didn't come here, we wouldn't have gotten the taxes anyway, then I'm in favor of that. But even that has limitations, because they will go ahead and bring in people and families and put stress on the schools. So there is no such thing as a free business when you have a tax set aside. The other part, though, is we really need to encourage small businesses to come here, which gets us back to the internet and how we're going to get internet access. The last 2 years in my job, I was a telecommuter. I was able to go ahead and log on. My customers were in Fort Leavenworth and Colorado Springs. I had no need to go into the job. Same thing applies here. We can get people working from home, starting their own businesses or tying in as professionals to other businesses. It comes back with more people living here and working here. That means we also have more people to volunteer for the volunteer fire departments and the other community services. So it isn't just pulling in the big manufacturing, which I worry about affecting the nature of Culpeper. It's getting the small businesses and the professionals to work here, stay here, participate here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I certainly agree with incentives. The board has a policy that it's had in place for many, many years relative to incentives for new business and industry coming into Culpeper County. And it's looked at on a case-by-case basis, no size fits all. And there are requirements when they get that money or that tax rebate for a certain number of years. They may have to hire so many employees, and there are some that have been required to have so many new Culpeper County employees. So this money has got strings attached, and we have lost good businesses that have come here because the incentives were so great where they were looking in other places that they actually gave them the land to build on. I mean, it's a highly competitive market, and you just have to weigh that, what you're going to get in the end based on what you're going to have in incentives. But I can tell you, we have used incentives in the last 2 years and have had $67 million of new private investment in business and industry in Culpeper County, increasing their size and new businesses coming. So that's a pretty good thing as far as I'm concerned. I think that certainly we need to continue on with the incentives. It's a pay me now or pay me later situation, but they do wind up paying in the long run.
Thank you, sir. Bill?
Yes, I agree with actually the statement was made earlier that we always look for a diversity in business. In other words, if one business ran in trouble, we didn't want half the town laid off. So that we tried to get businesses from 100 to 150 people and in various types of business. So I think, and we've given deferred tax credits at times. And I was part of the team that brought in Terramark when they first came in. But more than anything else, I've found an industry wants to be welcomed, so that we welcomed them. In one case, there was a company from Baltimore wanted to come here, a meat packing company, and had a toxic discharge. So They weren't welcome, so they didn't come. So I think that we have to do what we need to do to get more industry just to balance the taxes. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be too large of industry. It just has to employ the people here, because it would be nice if everybody in Culpeper County worked in Culpeper County. But that's a thing of the future. So yes, I do believe in it.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll go to closing remarks. And so, Chuck, you're actually first.
I'm running for this office because I think the Board of Supervisors needs a broader range of skills. We've got farmer, we've got builder, we've got realtors, we've got small businessmen. We need someone who's got experience working with the legislature. I've spent the last 4 years on the Republican committee, and all of a sudden a whole new world opens up. Developing relationships, just in the problem of trying to go ahead and craft laws. We need to have that capability on the Board of Supervisors, not just be waiting for the laws to come down and impact us. We need to communicate with our legislators to get that done. County government should also be very respectful of every tax dollar. I've proposed to go ahead and put the county checkbook on the internet. Goochland County did that. Yes, it's complex and people have trouble understanding it, but when you're spending money and know that the record is right there for anyone to see, you'll be just a little more careful. Also want to stop these $50,000, $100,000 studies that departments come in to go ahead and justify a new project. Usually such a study just simply tells people what they already know. I made a living doing studies, and I'm familiar with that kind of study, and I didn't do that kind of study. It's not that hard to figure out what you need when you're running a program, when you're running a department. Same thing happens here in Culpeper. It's not that hard to figure out what the salaries are for the teachers in the surrounding counties. Don't need to spend $100,000 to find that out. Pick up the phone, call them. In summary, I think we need to go ahead and work smarter at the Board of Supervisors and bring in a new awareness of what's going on around us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
As I stated earlier, the reason that I'm seeking this office is because of my concern of the future. I think we've got to do everything that we can do to manage Culpeper County, to maintain our rural community that people still want to come to, and bring businesses to offset the cost of this residential development that we're definitely going to see as we move along. We've been bringing those into the community, and that's helped tremendously with our tax base. We haven't had to have a tax rate increase in the last 4 years. We're doing something right. I think we need to manage the county, and we've already done that like we manage our own businesses. We have, through working with staff and the board working together, have attained a AAA bond rating. That's the same as you at home having a perfect credit score. And we've got that because we've got low per debt capita. We've got a savings account that we're following our policy. We've got a rainy day fund if something should happen. All the major bond rating agencies look at that, and that's how we got to where we are today. I want to continue that. I am a businessman. I run 3 of them, and I'm very well aware of what your decisions do to you in the future and the possible impact. I want to continue there to support education, to get this technical education back in our school system, hopefully tied together with this facility here and have dual enrollment. And yes, regardless of what you have heard, to continue to work with our legislators. I've worked with legislators from day one, Andy Guest. I've worked with George Beard. I've worked with every one of them right down the pike. And on issues such as proffers, historical issues, it amazes me. It amazes me that people would put out that kind of information. But I'll tell you something, when you're working with legislators, the first thing you got to do is you got to be straight up and you got to be honest. There was a little blurb that apparently got on the internet by my opponent who was trying to drag me through the mud on an issue that he didn't understand. It fell in the lap of one of our legislators. That legislator sent him a note. He's copied me on it. And on that note, it said, please allow me to give you information and make you aware of the facts, because the facts weren't anywhere around. It went on further to state that I would like to see you run an, and I quote, honest campaign. I will be honest with you. I will tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or you don't. But I ask for your support, because I'd love to continue to serve you. Thank you very much.
Bill, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I just want to keep serving the people, and I hope I always like phone calls, because it's what the people want is what I want, what the majority of my constituents out there and other people from the county sometimes call me that knows me. So that for that reason, I want to keep running. And the second personal reason is I would hate to be the first unopposed candidate to lose an election in this county. So I would like somebody to vote for me for that reason. So I would just promise I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but I can't change. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Bill, I can certainly relate to that. I would at least like to have one vote, but really my statement is going to be short as far as it's concerned. I can promise my constituents of Cedar Mountain that I will be responsive to you. And I think I have through the last 4 years. You call me. As you all know, I'm kind of like Bill. I don't like emails. I want to talk to you. So any issues, my cell phone is on the website, on our county website. Call me. I want to talk to you. And when you call me, I'll answer it anytime. So one more thing that I want to say is that most of you know me. You know how conservative I am. And I will promise you that I will scrutinize every dollar that we spend at the county. And that's a promise to you. And it doesn't make no difference where it's spent. I will ask the hard questions. And if you all have been to any of our meetings or saw any of our meetings on TV, I do ask the hard questions, and I will continue to do that. I promise you that. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. That concludes the candidates, or the Board of Supervisors candidates forum for tonight. Thank you for the conduct tonight of the group, and appreciate the service you've been providing. Thank you.
Thank you.
has to check with Mike, he said. I just love these.
Back to tonight's school board forum, and let's get started with the opening remarks with Elisabeth Hudgens.
Good evening. I thank the chamber for this opportunity to speak with chamber members and the community. I'm a Culpeper native and a former Culpeper teacher, and I've served on the Culpeper County School Board for 16 years, representing the Cedar Mountain and the Stevensburg district. I'm extremely grateful for the support of the voters from both districts. My decisions have been based on what is best for our students. I take this position seriously. In 16 years, I have only missed 2 school board meetings, and both were due to family illness or death in the family. I've served on numerous board committees and talk with our legislators often. I have worked with local business leaders to improve workforce readiness education. I've represented Culpeper in the development of the Mountain Vista Governor's School, which provides opportunities for gifted high school students. I represent our board on the Piedmont Regional Education Program Control Board, which provides services for our neediest special ed students. I've served on the Career and Technical Advisory Council. I've strongly supported the arts, and I visit our schools often, talking with parents, constituents, teachers, and students. I've been on the board through good and tough financial times. I've had to make difficult decisions. I've spoken up for improved salaries for our teachers and our staff. I have worked to increase career and technical education, and I've worked to improve security. I've worked to improve and add facilities as needed. Our students receive a great education in Culpeper County Public Schools. However, we must continue to improve and provide more opportunities and develop ways to reach every student according to their educational needs and career paths. I am the candidate with teaching experience, board experience, community involvement, and commitment to best serve the voters of the Stevensburg District and the children of Culpeper County. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Marshall Keene. I'm currently a sergeant with the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office. Most recently, my assignment was the school resource officer at Eastern View High School. I have 17 plus years of law enforcement experience. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I'm a small business owner here in Culpeper, operate my own driver's ed business that services Eastern View High School and Culpeper County High School. I'm married. My wife Jennifer's in the audience, along with two of our daughters, Emma and Kaylee. Tonight, before we get into the forum, I want to share with you why my law enforcement experience and my Marine Corps background qualify me to represent you on the school board. Most recently, you may have read a letter to the editor that a supporter of my opponent wrote that says, if you want somebody to lead troops into battle, then you need to vote for Marshall Keene. That's the best letter anybody's wrote for me this year, and I appreciate that. And this is why I have dedicated my entire life to the public service, to protecting and serving our community and our schools. I have walked the hallways in our schools here in Culpeper for the last 5 years with one thing on my mind, and that is to protect our students. I would be the only board member that would be able to sit at a round table and discuss the safety and security of our students and be able to use my expertise, my training, and my skill set to discuss and make well-informed decisions about the safety of our students. I've been a strong advocate about arming our security officers with guns. We currently have 2 security officers in our schools that are retired police officers that would fit that bill. There is nothing more important to me than protecting our students. I've done it my entire life. I think that's what we need here in Culpeper, and I appreciate your vote next week. Thank you.
We're going to hold our applause to the end.
They were applauding me coming up here.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, Martha, Doug, the Chamber staff, and Chris for tonight's forum. A heartfelt thank you to the crowd that's here this evening who's come out to learn more about the candidates, straight from us, without the bias and untruth so rampant on social media. It's great to look out and see some familiar faces, but to those of you who don't know me, I'm Michele North. I'm a candidate for the Jefferson District, running unopposed, so I hope I win. I'm completing my first term in office. I'm retired, having spent almost 30 years in nonprofit health care in Central Virginia, where I've relied on my communication and consensus building expertise in the various leadership positions and on community task forces and advisory councils. My ability to listen and gather information from interested stakeholders while keeping an open and unbiased perspective was helpful to the organizations that I worked with in achieving their goals. Likewise, these same assets have been beneficial in my work on the school board, where I serve on the Finance Committee, Capital Planning, Career Tech Advisory, the Joint Board of Supervisors School Board, Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee, and the Cosmetology Center Advisory Board, which is a program of Culpeper Human Services. Our children, Aaron and Josh, are now grown adults, but they both attended Culpeper schools, where they received a strong foundation and arrived ready for the rigors of college. Aaron graduated from JMU in a highly competitive, male-dominated field of science and technology, and our son Josh had a full scholarship as a James Madison Centennial Scholar, where he graduated with honors with a dual major. I am exceedingly happy to report that neither of them are boomerang kids and live in our basement. While our children were in school, I was an active volunteer parent in the classroom and participated on various committees. I enjoyed my school involvement and made some lifelong friendships with several educators. Now I focus my energy and abilities not just on 2 young people, but for the betterment of 8,000. As one of 7 members of the Culpeper County School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Betsy?
Hi, my name is Betsy Smith. I apologize, I'm getting over a little something, and so I'm having a little hard time with my throat. I'm a native of Culpeper. I graduated from Culpeper County High School and went to Old Dominion University, where I graduated with a BS in Business Administration and Marketing. Worked in the marketing and sales world for about 4 years, and then went back to school. I got a Master of Divinity in Counseling and Children and Family Ministry. My heart is children and families. I'm married. My husband is Jonathan Smith, and he's a retired Army veteran. We traveled. We were married and traveled a lot. So I homeschooled for a while. We have 3 daughters. When we moved to Culpeper about 15 years ago, I homeschooled them for a while, and then we put them in private school. And it became evident to me that they needed the variety, they needed the resources that the public school offered. But I'd read about the failing schools, so I was leery about putting my children there. And I asked if I could volunteer in the school, thinking I was going to get, they didn't want that, but they were very receptive. And it didn't take me but about a week or 2 weeks to figure out that our schools were not failing at all. We have very dedicated teachers and administrators and staff. I watch teachers sacrifice their own resources to help children in need, and was just overwhelmed by that, and I couldn't understand why our schools were labeled failing. So I went on a campaign to talk to the guy writing the laws, the No Child Left Behind laws back then. And from that and my volunteering, I got even more involved. I started substituting, and that just showed me the need in the school. I didn't want to just know about it. I wanted to become involved, so I wanted to run for school board.
All right, thank you, Betsy. You drew the first number, and so you'll be the first to start, and then we'll rotate through. So please tell us what you believe the role of the school board, of a school board member to be.
Okay. Well, the school board is a policy-making board. That is one of the main tasks of the school board. Also, they hire the superintendent, or we hire the superintendent, and plan the budget. We also are the liaison between the community and our staff. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the school board is and what we can do, but one of the most important things, I think, is that we understand what our role is, that we work together as a team, and that we listen to our professionals that we have that are working for the school system. So my biggest privilege, I think, of being part of the school board and our task is to be an advocate for our teachers, an advocate for our students and our families, and to listen to our community and the concerns that they have and pass those in the right direction.
Thank you. Elisabeth?
Well, Betsy has shared what the legal reasons or legal responsibilities of a board are: to hire the superintendent, to prepare the budget, and to set policy for the school system. In addition, I believe the school board members, as Betsy also said, have to be an advocate for our children, but we also must be involved in helping the community understand the needs of our schools, helping them to understand the financial situations, the state laws, the federal laws, the mandates that we are under, so that they can understand how the school operates. I believe we have to be in contact with our constituents, understanding what their needs are, and the parents and the students, to making the school system work the best for them. We need to be involved with the business community because that's where our children are going. They're going out into the workforce. So we need to have that conversation frequently to understand the changing needs of the workforce so we can prepare our children for that. And of course, to be in contact with our state and federal legislators, which we meet frequently with, to have an understanding of the consequences of the laws that they pass, some which don't come with funding, which lands back in the locality as having to foot that bill. So we need to keep those conversations going, and I think that's a critical part of being on the board. But we must work as a team to solve issues. No one individual board member has the power to do anything. Without the entire board working together, or at least a majority, is the only way things are accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to echo what Betsy and Elisabeth said as far as the role of the school board. It's obvious that they're a policy-making board. They hire the superintendent and they manage a balanced budget. But to me, two of the most important things that we need to make sure happens on our school board is, one, we need to make sure that we are advocating for our parents and our students. We need to make sure we are building and fostering relationships with our parents. One of the things when I started to run my campaign, I was knocking on doors. One thing that parents told me was, we want to be involved, we don't know how to be involved. And it's true. I've been to several school board meetings, even work sessions, where I've looked around the room, and the only people attending these meetings are principals. Okay, so we need to figure out a way to get our parents involved in education. We need to figure out a way to give parents a choice in their child's education. Another thing is we need to make sure that our school board is building and fostering a healthy relationship with our board of supervisors. You got a chance to listen to a couple of them here tonight, and I think in the past our school board here in Culpeper didn't really have that type of relationship with our school board, and I think that they're working towards that with our board of supervisors, and we need that to make sure that happens, especially when we're talking about joint committees with putting a new career and technical building in our county and stuff like that. We need to make sure that we have that healthy relationship. But building relationships with parents. Our parents are the ones who need to know what's going on in our schools. We need to have school board members who out at our events, they need to be personable and they need to be visible. They need to be available. Okay, and I am that person. All right, I am a first-time candidate, but you know me from being at the schools. You know me from being in uniform at the schools. You know me as a parent. You know me as a coach. You know me as a driver and ed instructor of your students. So to me, I think the most important role of a school board member is getting to know the parents, getting to know the kids, and being an advocate for those parents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, gosh,
Michele.
Coming last, there's not a lot more I can say, is there? I certainly concur with the three major responsibilities that we as a school board are tasked with. I certainly believe that one of our main roles is to build relationships. And as everyone has said, it's with the parents, it's with our taxpayers, it's with our business owners and the Board of Supervisors. I can specifically speak to the relationship with the Board of Supervisors. I think that is something that over the past 4 years that I've been on the board, not through the sole efforts of myself, but certainly through the efforts of the collective group, that our relationship has improved to a height that none of us thought it would ever reach. It had been a very contentious relationship in past years. I think one thing that really speaks loudly to this is that we meet on a regular basis. Both boards come together. We share information on economic development that's occurring, on potential rezonings, because that could have a huge impact on our school system. We talk about our capital improvement budgets, both the counties and the schools. Sometimes they can be really significant. And because of these conversations and the relationships we are building, we have an understanding of each group's needs and a respect for each group's needs. This last budget cycle was a miracle. Our budget that was submitted to the Board of Supervisors was accepted as submitted. But it didn't end there. Do you know that the Board of Supervisors decided to fund $100,000 that we did not ask for? I'm supposed to do something?
Just speak up a little.
Talk up more. Okay. I'm wondering, what is this? But And maybe this is making my head spin. It was so remarkable because we, as the school board, were given $100,000 towards a new school, which is slated to be the new CTE Center. I thought that is a remarkable accomplishment and a real testament to the commitment both boards have to working together. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next question will go to Elisabeth. What do you consider to be the greatest challenge facing the school system today, and why is it a major issue?
I don't think there's one issue, major issue facing our schools, one major challenge. There are multiple. One that we fight constantly is unfunded mandates from state and federal governments. Those can cause us to have to adjust our budget to meet them or to require additional funding from localities. We have a growing ELL population in Culpeper, English language learners. We have a growing special education population, particularly in the autism spectrum. We have a teacher shortage across the nation that we need to find a way to graduate more teachers from our colleges so that they're available for us to hire. I think those are probably the greatest challenges we face at this point.
Thank you.
Well, I think everybody's going to know my answer to that. It's going to be our bus drivers. Back in 2012, my opponent and the former superintendent revamped a policy that recreated the salaries for our bus drivers. So the bus driver division was already short on manpower. So when they revamped the policy, it took money away from our bus drivers. Some bus drivers were losing $700 to $800 a month. So what do? They quit. Okay, so now we have a shortage of bus drivers, and now we have more shortages. So from 2012 until now, we're at 2017. We have still yet to recuperate from that policy change. So we have bus drivers doing double routes. We have bus drivers doing extra duties. And who's suffering from it? Well, I can tell you who's suffering. It's our students. We have students getting on the bus at 5:50 in the morning. We have some students getting home almost closer to 5 o'clock. Now, if you ask me, I think that's a long day. I don't know too many adults who work that long, but that's a long day for a student to get on the bus, go to school, come home late, eat dinner, get ready for extracurricular activities, come back home, take a shower, and still have time to do homework. So we have to figure out a way to get more bus drivers in our division. So how do we do that? Well, we have to recruit and retain. We have to give these bus drivers incentives to come here. We have to go out and find them. We have to give them opportunities here with their division. And then once we get them here, we have to treat them fairly. We have to look out for them, and we have to keep them here. They have to want to stay here with us. This has been an issue since I've been here in Culpeper for almost 12 years, and it's not getting fixed. We talk about it year after year. Just the other day, okay, I got 15 seconds, but bus drivers, we have to shorten our ride times. We're not going to change the distances, but we can fix it by changing the start times of our schools, and that would hopefully help shorten the times our students are on the bus. Thank you.
Thank you. Michele.
There are many things that are issues in our schools. One of the things that I think about a lot is the safety of our children. It can be the playground equipment and the surfaces they fall onto, the drivers or the buses that are transporting them. We've had some unfortunate accidents over the last year. Probably the one that comes top of mind is an intruder on our campuses. We have made huge strides through safety grants that have been provided to us through various sources to have secure vestibules, to have cameras, and we're increasing the safety technology to ensure that our schools stay safe. But it's also really important to have a supportive learning environment that's free from bullying, where mutual respect is present amongst the students, between the students and the teachers and the educators. While not exclusively a school issue, we've already touched on this with the earlier discussion with the Board of Supervisors, but the abuse of alcohol and illicit drugs negatively affects every aspect of our community. And we need to work together in some way to set new expectations, change behaviors, and ensure that appropriate services are available for those that need them. We need to increase our mental health counselors and services in the community. I think that would be a huge step in the right direction. Now I will go to the bus drivers, because that really has been a big issue. It's interesting. Culpeper has increased the salary of bus drivers to the point that we now exceed Fauquier County. We have bonuses if they show up on a regular basis. They now have all the benefits that VRS provides, and we have done some significant things to enhance our positions in comparison. I will say that this is not a Culpeper issue, but a national issue that every school division is working with.
Thank you.
I agree with all of them. I agree with Elisabeth that there is not really one challenge that faces our schools. There are several, from teacher retention, teacher compensation, morale, support, parental involvement. That is one that concerns me. When I volunteered in that classroom and saw the teacher doing things for a child that their parents should have done. The SOL testing and the VDOE regulations that are passed down, they are softening some. We've done a lot of talking and reaching out to our legislators and our VDOE, and it's making some difference, but those regulations are difficult for students, they are difficult for teachers, and often a teacher or a class or a school is called failing when there has been great progress made, just not on one standardized test. I think that's a big challenge for us. We have an increase in English learners. That is difficult. Those children have to take their SOLs in English, whether they've been in Culpeper 10 days or 10 years. That is difficult for them, so that is a challenge that our teachers face, our schools face. I think safety and security of our students is always a challenge, from boarding the buses to their peer interaction and intruder concerns, something that we are constantly thinking about. Boarding the buses is a concern. I get lots of parents very concerned on some of our rural roads like Route 15, and cars passing by our stopped buses with the stop sign out. That's a challenge that we are trying to face and head on right now. And of course, we all are concerned with and working on our bus drivers. So I think all of those are challenges for us that we're facing right now.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Marshall. This is a two-part question. So what is the role of the school board in developing the annual school budget, and how should the school board ensure that the budget is adhered to?
Okay, good question. I think the most important part of that is the school board members working together. I think not only working together, I think we need to think about those people who actually put the budget together, starting with Dr. Brads and his staff, his executive directors. It all pretty much starts with those guys. And then they bring it to the board, and I know these guys work tremendously hard. I know the budget work sessions are extremely tense, and there's a lot of work required in that. But also, 65% of the county's budget is made up of the education budget. So again, it goes back to what I talked about earlier, is we have to be able to have a healthy relationship with our county board members to make sure that we are cohesive and that it is adhered to. When we talk about the budget, there's a couple things I touched a little bit on about our bus driver salaries. You know, that's in the budget. Some things that's been brought to my attention is here recently we have gave some of our admin staff anywhere from a 4% to an 8% raise when we're giving our teachers a 1% raise. All right, so if you're a taxpayer, I don't know about you, but to me, I think that, you know, we should be looking out for our troops at the bottom before we start giving money to our troops at the top. A little bit, I know some of these guys mentioned about the security grant. The past 2 years, CCPS has received almost $140,000 in security grants. Well, those security grants have been used for cameras and vestibules. Hey, that's great. You know, we need those cameras, but the cameras are reactive instead of proactive. I can tell you from experience, we are not watching those cameras every day, all day, while our students are in schools. Did you know that that grant money can be used for other security equipment? And here's an example. A teacher can make a phone call from a school, from a classroom to 911. It takes Culpeper County's Emergency Services Dispatch 17 minutes to locate where that teacher is. 17 minutes. Now, from my experience, that's way too long, okay? It's way too long. That money can be used for less cameras, better equipment, to improve our phone systems, which we've talked about in this county for years, to improve the safety of our teachers and our staffs when making those 911 calls, because in the end, it's the safety and security of our students and our staff that counts.
Thank you.
The budget process, which we just received an email on today with our budget calendar, includes first and foremost the people that are frontline, the teachers that run the programs, the services through the system. They submit their funding requests. They are then vetted by the individual that they report to. That information comes to central office. During this whole time, we reach out to our community. We've been doing this for, I think this will be our 3rd year. We have robocalls that go out to every parent in the school division. We ask them to contact us. Let us know what they think is important. We do the same thing with businesses. So the budget is not just made up of school board members, it is made up of the entire system. We look at it really closely. Yes, there are times when it seems incongruous that one set of staff may get a higher percentage of raise than another, but what we have found over time, and this happens in businesses, there's creep, salary creep in some areas and not in others. So to step back and reassess and reload where we are with different positions, because there is no low and high. Everyone in our division is important. There's not one staff person that doesn't make a difference every day in a child's life. And so we have to recognize that, whether they're a teacher, whether they're a custodian, a bus driver. Everyone is important.
Thank you. Betsy?
So the role of the school board has been explained very clearly, is a huge joint effort. We are not the experts. We have experts in our classrooms and as far in our administrators and our staff. So we do ask for input from them. Our superintendent sees that, makes recommendations. He also listens to us, as we said. The compensation has been a big concern for all of us. It's one piece of teacher morale, but not the main piece, but it is a big piece of teacher morale. So we do have a study that indicated for us the salary scales of all positions, and for the surrounding communities that often steal our teachers or could steal our teachers. And so that was an issue that was a big priority for many of us. We guided the superintendent in that way, and I think it was just as important to him. You asked how we adhere to the budget. I think the biggest way we adhere to the budget is there's a line item, and if we have a certain amount for technology, if we want to use that for something else, we're not able to do that without asking permission of the Board of Supervisors who granted us that money. So we have an accountant who is really good at that, but we also ask lots of hard questions and make sure that we adhere to our budget. We know that if we don't, we are the ones that suffer for that. So it's very important. And again, it's a team effort, all of us together looking at it and asking hard questions.
Thank you. Elisabeth?
Preparing the budget starts at the school level, as others have said, with our teachers and our administrators who know the specific needs in those areas. And it comes to the school board after passing through the administration at the central office. And many times it requires them to whittle down some of those needs in order to address some severe needs or new mandates or shortages that have come up over the year that we have to address. In compensation, we always look to surrounding counties because we lose our teachers. Thankfully, some of that drain has stopped. But we did a 13 school system survey for all positions, as Betsy said. And in that survey, we found that some of our positions were doing well in competition with those counties. Some of those positions were not. The board made the decision to put money into those positions, some of them very experienced people that we have spent a lot of time and money in training to keep those people here. We continue to look at that survey. We continue to look at the Evergreen study that we did, as the county did, to adjust our salaries to bring them up to par. It's a constant challenge. It doesn't go away, and with the teacher shortage, it is an issue we face every year. As far as adhering to the budget, the school board gets a financial report at every meeting from our finance department. Our finance committee goes over the expenditures for that month, and we look at the total budget picture every month to determine that we are staying within the confines of what we have budgeted and what money we have received from the state, the federal, and the local government. I am happy to say that we have never overspent in the time that I've been on the board, and the surplus that we have at the end of the year, money not spent, has gone back in to help fund capital improvements, and it's helped us to meet many of the needs of our system that we could not have met otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marshall, you started that one, so Michele, you'll be next. There's a significant demand in the workplace today for skilled tradesmen, such as welders, machinists, and electricians. How do you propose our school system prepare students for jobs of this type?
Well, it's interesting. I think I heard someone say that all of our vocational classes were disbanded at one point. I actually sit on the school board, Board of Supervisors, CTE Advisory Committee. We've been meeting since last August, a year ago. We've been very focused looking at the numerous thousands of unskilled, high-in-demand positions that are going unfilled here in the Commonwealth. We are taking a very tactical look at this to develop new programs that fit in, that our students will be able to be successful when they graduate. We currently have a wonderful vocational educational, that's what it used to be called, now it's CTE. We have classes in any number of realms, not just your trades classes, which we don't have at this time, but we've got classes in graphics, in early childhood education, any number of things that are going to help kids get a window into what's out there when they graduate. Because that really is true. The more experiences a child has, the better off they'll be able to make some decisions as to what their interests are. So I am very excited that we will very soon be able to make some very exciting announcements about what we're going to be doing with our new CTE Center. It's going to be a reality, and I think it will make a huge difference in the lives of our kids and in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It'll make Culpeper a more attractive place for businesses because a well-trained workforce is one of those attributes that they're looking for. So we can be that for them.
Thank you. Betsy?
Okay. CTE is important to all of us. Unfortunately, in the last, 8 or so years, probably longer than that, the government thought it was really important that every child be college ready when they graduate. And it's just not realistic that everyone is interested in college, and college is not the only successful track, and we know that. So one of the first things that Mr. Frazer did when he became a supervisor was ask me to go with him to talk to some folks in the school about CTE. That's how important it is to him and to me, and it is to our school as well. We, as Michele said, offer already a lot of good vocational courses, and the problem is we don't have the facility for a lot of the things that are needed. Building trades, auto mechanics, health services, even cybersecurity. These are things that we know are important now and that we are all looking at. The best way to make that, to accomplish that is to work together with our supervisors, to listen to our community, to listen to the needs that are in our community and the interests that our students have. I think it's one of those things, if you build it, they will come. It's not that there is no interest. There is not a place for them to do some of the stuff that we need to offer them.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Contrary to what some people believe, CTE is not dead in Culpeper County.
No.
We have 22 different career opportunities in our vocational and educational career and tech programs. Last year, we gave 20 credential tests to about 2,000 students. That credential allows them to leave school prepared to have a job in whatever area their credential is in. I sit, as Michele does, on the joint BOS School Board Career and Technical Committee, and we are working very hard to bring the ones we've lost. And we have lost career and technical opportunities over the years. When I came on the board years ago, we did not have building trades. Several of us on the board got very active, and we got an instructor. We kept that instructor for about 5 or 6 years. They could make more money in the private sector, so they left us. Again, this happened, and we lost the instructor. Currently, we don't have an instructor. Through the work with this joint committee, we are working to try to possibly attract some retired people in these trades that might be willing to stay with us a little longer than some of the younger contractors, builders, and so forth who are out trying to take care of their families. So we're working on that. Auto mechanics, we've done a survey with our local businesses as to what they need. Auto mechanics, cybersecurity, we have a teacher in training right now who is working to get the credentials in order to teach this class. We also work with E2 and Career Partners in providing opportunities for our students to improve their soft skills, their interview skills. We do a mock interview, and we served over 600 juniors in that this past year. We have the opportunity, again, through E2 and Career Partners, for our elementary students to explore career paths. And just recently, we had the STEM program at the airport, where all 5th graders went, and that was phenomenal. In the E2 program, we had 50 students involved this past year, and the Career Expo through 8th, 10th, and 12th grade served a huge number of our students to give an opportunity for them to see what the careers are out there. So we're working on it.
Thank you.
You think it'd be easier to go last, but I want to echo everybody's answers here. So I think we're all going to agree on the subject that CTE is one of the most important things that we need to address in this day and time. It's no secret our Career Technical Center is coming, and I think it's coming somewhere around this very building. So that's going to be important to incorporate Germanna into this program, not just for the facility use, but it's going to increase our dual enrollment classes. Currently, at Eastern View High School and Culpeper High School, there is a little bit of disparity in how many dual enrollment courses we actually offer to those students. And it's no fault to the teachers or the administrators. It's just that Germanna requires a different set of standard for a teacher to instruct at a dual enrollment course. So we need to increase those responsibilities, and I think this CTE building is going to be able to do that. And you've heard the lady say that, you know, all the trades are coming, and that's great. But what do we do in the meantime? Okay, we know the building's coming. Mr. Frazer has been working on it for years. Our Delegate Freitas has passed legislation or pushed bills through the House that has lessened the licensure to get these instructors into our to schools. And hopefully with that bill, we'll be able to keep them here. But again, what do we do in the meantime? Well, I have some ideas. Last year, we had a criminal justice program. Obviously, you know, I work for the Sheriff's Office, and there's a lot of student volunteers that come through there. A lot of students interested in criminal justice careers. There's a lot of students in our community that are volunteer firemen who are part of the junior firemen associations with their departments. There are a lot of EMTs. We used to have an EMT program, okay? So we need to bring our criminal justice classes back. I would like to create a Firefighter 1 course, and we need to create an EMT course. Those students, that's another opportunity to further those students' credentials if they want to obtain a career in those fields. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will start with Betsy. School divisions and community college have an opportunity to work closely together to offer dual enrollment classes. These courses may include career and technical education courses that could lead directly to career opportunities. What are your plans to reduce tuition costs to students without passing this cost on to the school division?
What is my plan for reducing tuition costs? That would be working very closely with Germanna and for the dual enrollment. I think that is the big, I mean, my daughter was in the Germanna Scholars Program and the parents incurred the entire cost. I know that, is that what you're asking, how we would reduce the tuition? Okay. So I think one of the things that we try to do, Joe Daniel has a big fundraiser, and he gives scholarships to our Germanna scholars. Not just the Germanna scholars, though. We have dual enrollment nursing students. We have dual enrollment classes. When I was a counselor at Germanna, I had a student in my office, and he was like, I wish I'd taken that dual enrollment class. He needed one more class before he could go to a 4-year college. He had to stay another semester at Germanna. We need to help them with those courses, and I really think it needs to be an agreement with Germanna where they are willing to work with us. That is lobbying, that is spending time, that is reaching out, perhaps asking our legislators for some help or our supervisors, but really I think it's mostly in the relationship with Germanna.
All right, thank you.
The conversation with Germanna is one that's continuing, and I hope will expand with Dr. Gullickson, the new president. The conversation about the cost to our students is at a state level right now. Different community colleges charge different rates for students for dual enrollment, and there is a committee that is involved in trying to work to standardize that. And in fact, there was a study of the Virginia Community College system that was recently done by the JLARC committee at the state level, and it pointed out a lot of discrepancies across the state and a lot of issues that the community college system needs to address. And working through those needed changes and needed issues, I'm hoping that part of that will be to make the community college system more available to our students. We do have the Germanna Scholars Program, and our goal with this new CTE building is to provide more dual enrollment opportunities for our students, whether it's with Germanna, whether if it's with PVCC, Piedmont, or whether it's with Lord Fairfax. We need to continue to grow that opportunity so that those students can have those credits to take with them as they go on to college.
Thank you.
I think I touched on a little bit ago on my last question, but I do support the dual enrollment courses as long with the Germanna Scholars. As a parent, my oldest daughter, she took some dual enrollment courses, and I can tell you from a financial line item that it helps tremendously if they can take it in high school before they do get to that 4-year university. It's a huge difference. Speaking with some of our state legislators again, I know that there is some bills in the making that's going to, I don't know if you know this, but not all of their dual enrollment courses taken at Germanna will transfer to every 4-year institution in the state. Okay? Most kids in Virginia are going to go inside Virginia to college. So I know our legislators are working to pass bills that's going to require community colleges or require 4-year universities to cover or to accept every dual enrollment course offered in our community colleges. And I think that's important. Again, we need to offer some type of incentives for our teachers. If we can offer an incentive for our teachers to be certified through Germanna, they have to have 18 credit hours to be able to teach a dual enrollment course. If we can offer an incentive to get a teacher to take those courses, it's not only going to help our students, but it's also going to help our teachers, and it's going to want them to stay here. It's going to increase morale.
Thank you. Michele?
As the Virginia Department of Education is reassessing the diploma requirements for our students, we are envisioning there's going to be a significant shift in the way students accumulate credits. The first 2 years of their high school, they'll be spent doing academics. The second 2 years could end up being sort of a fork in the road. Some students going to CTE and some going on to more college preparation courses. I hope that as we're making those changes in the requirements for our graduates, that there are also going to be opportunities for us to speak, as has already been suggested, to lobby for making classes at different levels more available and less expensive for those students. We've had a lot of changes occurring through our Innovation Committee with our SOLs, and I want to be equally excited that the diploma requirements are also going to really afford our students a choice as to how they're going to finish up in high school and help set their course to be successful adults as they leave us.
Thank you, everyone, for the question session. So we'll move on to the closing remarks.
Ready? Where did the time go?
We are ready for those 5 questions. So, Elizabeth?
Okay.
2 minutes.
Our school board has 5 members who have served 4 years or less on the board. Our board has seen a lot of change. We have a new superintendent. As all business owners know, you need new blood, but you also need experienced people in your organization. I am the candidate who understands the needs of the system. I've worked with almost every facet of the system as a member on the board. I have supported new opportunities and changes that have helped our students to grow and have increased the efficiency of our operation. I have no personal agenda. I do not have a party affiliation. I am working for our students. I believe in being present at school functions, and I am. I believe being at community events, and I am. And I also attend numerous state board events for state school board events. I take advantage of any opportunity for growth as a board member through professional development. I believe in frequent and open communication. I believe in transparency in our budget process, our budget, and the operations of the board. I believe a strong relationship with our business community helps us to better prepare our students for the workforce of the future. I greatly appreciate the support of the Chamber and career partners who have provided our staff and students with many opportunities. As I've already stated, I sit on the Board of Supervisors School Board Joint CTE Committee, and I look forward to a new CTE building and the restructuring from the state of high school. I've been going door to door for some time now. I hope to make it to every one. I have heard many celebrations and concerns, and I appreciate the feedback. The input of all stakeholders, parents, teachers and staff, students, business leaders, and constituents help to improve our system. I am the candidate with the experience who can best serve our children and represent the voters of Stevensburg District. And again, I would like to thank the Chamber for this opportunity this evening and ask for the vote of the citizens of the Stevensburg District. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, in closing, Elizabeth, I'd like to thank you for your time and your effort that you put into the school board over the past several years. I know it takes a lot of work. I've learned these past couple months that you guys do work extremely hard, and I just wanted to say to you that I appreciate that. However, I think we do need a new set of eyes. You just heard her speak that there are several members on this board who have been here 4 years or less, and there's a reason for that, because they do need fresh blood. They do need a new perspective on things, and I think I'm that perspective. I think I've proven through my campaign that I'm going to be the voice for everyone, including our teachers, our students, and most definitely our parents. Our parents are the ones who are raising their children, Their students are the ones who are the future of our community. Just this week at the work session, the Virginia Association of School Superintendents laid out 3 themes from a survey that they were conducted by staff members, over 100 staff members, randomly. And here's what their concerns were: more bus drivers, readdress the start and stop times of our schools, form a school year calendar committee. Well, if you go back to April and read the paper where I announced my candidacy, guess what you're going to read? On my platform is more bus drivers, start-stop times, and form a school year calendar. We have to communicate with our parents. If our parents are not involved, we're not going to be able to run a successful school board. And Elizabeth, I'm sorry, for 16 years, we are still addressing the same issues, and I can assure you that if I'm elected or when I'm elected, I will address those issues and I will be your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Michele?
I have enjoyed my 4 years on the board, and I look forward to serving 4 more with my well-respected and learned colleagues. I will continue to advocate for our public schools, to listen and educate myself on the issues, remain receptive to alternate solutions, and respond to constituent inquiries. and above all other, to ensure Culpeper students beginning in the elementary school are offered a program of study that will result in career or college readiness upon their graduation. It has been and it will continue to be a learning experience for me. You cannot be complacent and be an engaged and effective member on the board. The issues before us have been varied, some absolutely delightful and exciting, and unfortunately others quite troubling. Effective school boards are comprised of members who put the needs of their students and their education first and foremost in every decision that they make. School boards are not successful when the members are not driven by, school boards are most successful when the members are not driven by personal agendas and avoid declaring allegiance to a political party, ideology, or an organization. It's paramount that board members recognize they represent all of their constituents. Let us not forget, public schools are one of the few places that bring an entire community together. One thing that's been causing me great concern has been the use of social media in this election cycle. It has not brought out the best of our community. Personal, unfounded accusations have been posted on Facebook, as well as bullying behaviors and intimidating statements made directly to a school board candidate. Unfortunately, I've been the recipient of some of that behavior. This is unacceptable, and our community deserves better than this. It has been my true honor and privilege to serve on the board with my esteemed colleagues. We all take our responsibilities and work seriously and place the needs of our students, educators, and the greater community way above our personal interests. I look forward, with the support of the voters in the Jefferson District, to serving another term as their school board representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Betsy?
I'll keep this one brief. I ran for school board 4 years ago because I was very interested in our schools. I was very impressed with the commitment of our faculty and our staff, and I vowed then to be an advocate for our teachers, for our students and our families, and for our community. And that has been the filter I've looked through for 4 years, and I'm just want to continue to do that. One of the concerns that I had was forming a good relationship with our Board of Supervisors. I think we've done that. I was very concerned with our teacher morale, and I see progress there. We hear lots of good reports. We are making great progress. We're doing some good things together. Again, we're working as a team. I'm enjoying that, and I want to continue to do that for 4 more years.
Thank you so much. And that concludes tonight's forum. Appreciate everyone's effort. Thank you.